If I try to figure out what makes her, I would probably say that the strong influence of her parents.
AudreyLawson was born in St. Louis, Missouri, one of 9 children to John Henry and Alma Hoffman.
Her mother was an extremely strong but very quiet woman.
Her father was an upholsterer.
She learned what it was to be entrepreneurial. She learned what it was to be persevering.
As a result of that, she always looks at how we get it done.
Her toughness came from those years.
She attended Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, and received a Bachelor of Arts in social work. While studying at Tennessee State, she began a 2.5-year long-distance relationship by mail with theology graduate student William Lawson, then living in Kansas.
Those early years were years where she was willing to try almost anything. And her writing to me a letter was a good example of that.
Here's a woman who has never been a drinking violet. She decided she wanted to meet that guy, and so what did she do but write the first letter? And he responded in kind.
3 years, 600 letters, and only saw her 9 times, and the 9th time was the wedding.
Bill and Audrey married in January of 1954. The 3 volumes of Lawson letters have been archived by the Houston Public Library and are a major feature in Mrs. Lawson's biography.
I think that she started out wanting to go into law school, but when she got to Tennessee State in Nashville, she then began to look at social work as a way to reach out and help people.
AudreyLawson began her career at the St. Louis YMCA, and after the couple moved to Houston, she continued at DePelchin's Children's Center in what was then called the Negro Child Center. She also worked at the Vocational Guidance Center, now known as Career and Recovery Resources of Houston. Shortly before the birth of their youngest child, Roxanne, Bill and AudreyLawson established Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church.
Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church was born in our home.
My mother's first love has always been children. So when my dad began the church, her concern was, what do we do about the kids?
Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church is probably a leader in social action. It certainly is a leader in civil rights. And that's not because its pastor wanted it to be that. It is because Audrey, the social worker, the obsessive family person, the person who loved lower class people, wanted to see to it that that church reached out to other people than the wealthy lawyer who could come in and be a member.
Community service and children's ministries were always a core family value. Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops were created, as was the Wheeler Avenue Infant School, which is now known as the Wheeler Avenue Children's Academy. Mrs. Lawson always believed that a child is never too young to start their education.
Her greatest legacies are the living ones, the ones that she sees at church or she sees in, her doctor's office or as a lawyer, kids that she watched grow up and really achieve because she made a way for them.
As the civil rights movement heated up in the mid-1960s, Reverend Lawson was teaching courses at TSU. Many of his students found their way to the Lawson home for tutorial sessions, as well as impromptu political discussions.
Students who came to that building partly for Christian counseling and for Christian worship.
Students like the late Mickey Leland saw Mrs. Lawson as a surrogate mom and the Lawson home as their home away from home.
She's the one who fixes the spaghetti. She's the one who fusses at them when they get wrong.
There was that part of her that was always sort of the earth mother, the nurturer. But then she would come in and sit down and get involved in these conversations herself.
She is the counselor. She is the mama away from home. And she and Mickey had a number of conversations. And I would say to him sometimes, Mickey, you're Catholic. Why do you keep coming over here? And he would say, because of Mama Lawson.
In 1996, at his 50th anniversary of the entry into the ministry, Reverend Lawson was gifted by community members with a fully funded nonprofit to use in any way he saw fit. Mrs. Lawson saw an opportunity to use it to establish a charter middle school for boys, the Wallop Preparatory Academy for Boys.
Together, number 4. Tenacious. Tenacious.
She thought that the most important thing would be to have a school, an academy that was single gender, that focused in the beginning on boys, because it was so important to her that young African American boys have strong role models and strong mentorships, and that they learned things that perhaps traditional schools didn't teach them.
I'm most proud of the fact that she has pushed these young people, and because she was so concerned about what happened to young blacks, especially young black males.
We can focus on our work more than we do on girls.
It has since become a state charter, and a girls' middle school soon followed.
If there is one thing I would say about my mother, it's never underestimate her.
To catch the tiger, useless speed when cowardice pursues and valor flies.
I will not say that question.
Let me go.
Mrs. Lawson has another passion that leaves a major legacy for the city of Houston, black theater.
She didn't want to see it put on good plays. She wanted to see it cherish the heritage.
The Ensemble Theater was the creation of brilliant writer-director George Hawkins, but it was struggling to survive. And when George became terminally ill, Mrs. Lawson took the initiative to fundraise, ensuring its members and fans that the show will go on.
And one of the last things she promised him was that she would make sure that the theater continued.
She did that. She did that not because she's Bill Lawson's wife, but she did that because she's Audrey Lawson.
She wanted to see to it that the ensemble was not simply a place that owned its building, but a place that actually could give leadership to the theatrical community.
She would marry these two sides of her, the very creative side and the very practical side, to go out and raise money to buy a building for the theater. She raised millions of dollars to do that.
And then Audrey refused to be satisfied when they bought the building. She wanted to completely remodel the building and turn it into a real theater.
The ensemble probably reflects the most complete package of her.
That's the reason why one of the smaller theaters is named the Audrey H. Lawson Theater.
To many, she's affectionately known as the mother of the Ensemble Theater.
She is a person who doesn't miss an opening night, and I know when the end of the year comes, I better come up with $10,000 from someplace to put in the ensemble.
Mrs. Lawson has been out there and has made a difference in our community, especially as it relates to the culture, the black arts, and a lot more because she has been right by Reverend Lawson's side and probably doing a lot of the pushing and commenting for the struggles that he's gone through to make a difference in this community as well.
Everybody knows her as the wife of Bill Lawson, Reverend Bill Lawson, and she's often perceived as a sidekick when she's anything but. She has certainly left her own legacy, whether it is with the ensemble, with Wheeler Avenue, with so many institutions that affect children around this city.
Over these 60 years, I know that her greatest concern is A, that people shall have a faith base, that B, that people shall be concerned about building families, especially pouring principles and values into the lives of children, and then finally, that we would work for the civil rights of all. She's concerned about the civil rights of blacks, but she's also concerned about the civil rights of the mentally ill guy who's standing out on the street corner, who is not black, but who is part of the underclass. So I think that those represent what she was pushing for then. And if she were able to say anything right now, I think that that's what she would say.